All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Non-Commissioned Officer Professional Development Forum. And I'm Ken Preston, Sergeant Major of the Army, retired, soldier for life. And let me kind of go ahead and start by recognizing our host for today's Professional Development Forum, our Sergeant Major of the Army, Michael A. Grinston. Sergeant Major, thanks very much for being here. We also have Sergeant Major of the Army, Dan Daly, joining us here this morning. Sergeant Major, thanks for being here. We have Command Sergeant Major Hassan from United Arab Emirates. Sergeant Major, thanks for being here with us. We have Staff Sergeant David Bellavia, our Medal of Honor recipient. And once again, you know, for Sergeant Bellavia, you know, you're among us. And, you know, that's the great thing about this forum is, you know, as soldiers and non-commissioned officers here, we can say that we're very proud of you and what you've done and what you do now to represent us in all the places you travel around the world. And I just want to say thanks. I also want to recognize Command Sergeant Major Kim, Sergeant Major of the Army from the Republic of Korea. So Sergeant Major, thanks very much also for being here with us. All of our senior non-commissioned officers here, welcome. And today we have a number of awards we want to do to kind of start this thing off. And we want to start with the presentation of the FY 2019 Sergeant Major of the Army Retention Award. So with that, I'm going to turn it over now to Master Sergeant Godinez, who's going to kind of take us through this.
Good morning. Today we will announce the winners of the fiscal year 2019 Sergeant Major of the Army Retention Competition. Will the Command Sergeants Major of the following commands please move forward when called? The winners for their respective categories are the 101st Airborne Division, 1st Infantry Division, 25th Infantry Division, 21st Theater Sustainment Command, United States Army John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center and School, 2nd Infantry Division, 94th Army Air and Missile Defense Command, United States Army Cadet Command, and the United States Army Security Assistance Command. These commands are being recognized for achieving the highest retention mission accomplishment within their competitive categories. Today's retention program involves a complex support system that involves leaders of all levels and career counselors providing sound advice to soldiers and their families. The commands before you today represent the best retention programs in the Army.
All right, very good. So at this time now I have the honor to announce the 2019 recipients of the Sergeant Major Larry L. Strickland Educational Leadership Award. So the Sergeant Major Larry L. Strickland Educational Leadership Award is given in the honor of the memory of Sergeant Major Larry L. Strickland, the Deputy Chief of Staff G1 Sergeant Major who was killed in the September 11th terrorist attack on the Pentagon. Sergeant Major Strickland was an outstanding non-commissioned officer and a friend who cared deeply about soldiers and their professional development. He believed if you educate the non-commissioned officer, you educate the soldiers they lead. Honoring Sergeant Major Strickland today gives us the opportunity to honor all those who have given their life in the service of our nation. The Sergeant Major Larry L. Strickland Educational Leadership Award is awarded annually to a senior and mid-grade non-commissioned officer who exemplify the Army's vision of lifelong learning and motivates others to continue their professional development to shape future leaders. A non-commissioned officer like Sergeant Major Strickland who identifies, trains, develops, coaches, and mentors tomorrow's leaders. A non-commissioned officer who is a steward of our Army's and our nation's most precious resource, the American soldier. I would ask the following distinguished guests to join me here on the left side in front of the screen. First, Sergeant Major of the Army, Michael A. Grinston. Sergeant Major retired, Tom Gills, who serves as the president of the Sergeant Major Larry L. Strickland Memorial Fund Committee, and Ms. Pam Swan, the Director of Military Relations and Business Development for Veterans United Home Loans. And now the 2019 Sergeant Major Larry L. Strickland Educational Leadership Award Senior Non-Commissioned Officer recipient is First Sergeant Demetrius Harrell, Headquarters and Headquarters Detachment, 53rd Movement Control Battalion, 7th Transportation Brigade, Joint Base Langley, Eustis, Virginia. How about a round of applause? No, wait. Okay. Yeah, you're good. He'll take the trophy back. Okay, so Sergeant Major Gills, the president of the Sergeant Major Larry L. Strickland Memorial Fund Committee, will present a check for $4,000. Now wait. Troy, we're not worried about the check. All right. Good job. Okay, now we take the check back. All right. Tom? That's why we do these rehearsals. So, Ms. Pam Swan will now present our honoree with a laptop computer on behalf of Veterans United Home Loans. And I'll add that in addition to the Bronze Eagles received here, there's also a large Bronze Eagle on display at the United States Army Sergeant Majors Academy at Fort Bliss, Texas. All the Eagles are from the Association United States Army, and the name of each Strickland Award recipient each year is displayed on the Bronze Eagle at the United States Army Sergeant Majors Academy. So one more round of applause for First Sergeant Harrell. Okay, so our honorees, stay here, please. So our 2019 Sergeant Major Larry L. Strickland Educational Leadership Award mid-grade non-commissioned officer recipient is Sergeant First Class Brandon Laps. 86th Engineer Dive Detachment, Joint Base Langley, Eustis, Virginia. Okay, and SMA Grinston will now do the presentation of the Bronze Eagle. Okay, Sergeant Major Gills, the president of the Sergeant Major Larry L. Strickland Memorial Fund, will present a check for $4,000. Good job. Okay, now we take the check back. Take it back, take it back. Okay. Now, Ms. Pam Swan will present our honoree with a laptop computer on behalf of Veterans United Home Loans. Okay, thank you all very much. One more round of applause, please, for our award recipients. Okay, now I have the honor of announcing the 2019 Don Kilpatrick Memorial AUSA Scholarship Award. So the Sergeant Major Don Kilpatrick Memorial AUSA Scholarship Award is given in the honor of the memory of Sergeant Major Don Kilpatrick. Sergeant Major Don Kilpatrick began her public affairs career in 1979. Sergeant Major Kilpatrick's most challenging assignments included serving as the newspaper editor of 3 of the Army's most prestigious newspapers: the Hawaii Army Weekly at Fort Shafter, Hawaii, the Bayonet at Fort Benning, Georgia, and the Paraglide at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Then, as a special assistant to the Secretary of the Army, Sergeant Major Kilpatrick served as the personal public affairs officer for the Secretary of the Army. She was the first non-commissioned officer ever to serve in that role. Sergeant Major Kilpatrick was a master parachutist with more than 650 jumps. She spent 2 years as a member of the prestigious Golden Knights, the United States Army's parachute demonstration team. In 1999, the United States Army and the Association of the United States Army formed a partnership to honor Sergeant Major Don Kilpatrick and her selfless service to our Army and our nation. The Office of the Chief of Public Affairs established a scholarship in her name, titled the Sergeant Major Don Kilpatrick Memorial Association United States Army Scholarship Award. I would ask the following distinguished guests to join us up here at the side of the stage: Sergeant Major of the Army Michael A. Grinston, Sergeant Major Paul Schultz from the Office of the Chief of Public Affairs and the Army's Public Affairs Sergeant Major, and Ms. Pam Swan, Director of Military Relations and Business Development at Veterans United Home Loans. So the 2019 recipient of the Sergeant Major Don Kilpatrick Scholarship is Master Sergeant Alex Licia, who is currently deployed to Afghanistan, but he's from Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 1st Armored Division, Fort Bliss, Texas, and accepting the award for Master Sergeant Licia is Command Sergeant Major Robert H. Cobb, Command Sergeant Major, 1st Armored Division, Old Ironsides. And of course, we got Master Sergeant Licia on, there we go. He's there, he's watching. Wave to everybody. Okay, so the SMA is going to present a Bronze Eagle to, for Master Sergeant Licia to Sergeant Major Cobb. Let me jump in. Wait, one more. Okay, Ms. Pam Swan will present our award recipient, okay, with a check for $4,000. Check the check. How about it? So, hey, Sergeant Major Cobb, this means that you can't now keep the check. That's all right, okay, yeah. Okay, now Ms. Pam Swan will present a laptop computer to our award recipient on behalf of Veterans United Home Loans. Okay, hey, and one more last thing. Master Sergeant Licia's name will be permanently displayed in a place of honor in the Office of the Chief of Public Affairs. So how about a round of applause for Master Sergeant Licia? Thank you all. Good. All right, I would now ask Command Sergeant Major Retired Bob Winsenreed from USAA to please come forward, please, along with Command Sergeant Major Retired Troy Welch. So USAA has made a large contribution to AUSA non-commissioned officer and soldier programs to support our scholarship program for the last 3 years, okay? So 3 years. $50,000 a year USAA is given to the NCO and soldier programs scholarship awards. And I will tell you that this $50,000 is for 8 scholarships. All right, so one of those scholarships is $25,000. Okay, that's a scholarship for a soldier or a family member, and you talk about making a difference in somebody's life. But there's a $25,000, a $10,000, a $5,000, and five $2,000 scholarships, and from USAA. And I just, for me, I just want to personally say thanks to USAA, and especially, my best friend, Command Sergeant Major retired Bob Windsering. So let me jump down. All right, how about one more round of applause? Okay, so now at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our host for today's Professional Development Forum, our Sergeant Major of the Army, Michael A. Grinston.
If you know anything, you know I'm not going to stand up behind the podium. One of the great things you get the opportunity to do is to recognize soldiers. And all I was thinking, and when I saw this, is what a great nation we live in. I mean, where the non-commissioned officers can get education and we get recognized, and we just keep talking about, wow, we live in a great country where we just take our NCOs and say, we want to give them a laptop. We want to make sure they're educated. And that's why we're going to continuously have the greatest Army in the world, is because we got great people helping us out with all this. And I just want to say thank you for that. But we also got a great forum that's going to come up. But before I do that, so yesterday, my table, they were chiding me a little bit. They're like, hey, Sergeant Major, why you got a PFC up there? I said, I don't know. I said, let's promote him. He goes, Sergeant Major, I don't have enough time in service, time in grade. I was like, that's easy. Come on up. Oh, it is? Oh, yeah. We're going to do this. This is PFC. And I think if you make it all the way through all those boards and you get to come to the best warrior competition at the United States Army, you didn't win, but you made it. You won at your level. You got all the way here. We should actually promote him as specialist. And I don't care what your time in service, time in grade is. Do you all agree? So, let's do this. Somebody's got, there you go.
Gotcha. The Secretary of the Army has reposed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, valor, fidelity, and professional excellence of Private First Class Tyler Jacob Russell. In view of these qualities and his demonstrated leadership potential and dedicated service to the United States Army, he is therefore promoted to the rank of Specialist. On this day, the 15th of October, 2019, by order of the Secretary of the Army, signed, General James C. McConville, Chief of Staff, United States Army.
Okay, he said he wants Sergeant Major Abernathy to come up here with him.
Huh.
I'm not done yet. And then they said, hey, Sergeant Major, what about the specialist? He did win. Okay, come on, let's promote him too. Yeah.
The Secretary of the Army has reposed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, valor, fidelity, and professional excellence of Specialist David Anthony Chambers. In view of these qualities and his demonstrated leadership potential and dedicated service to the United States Army, he is therefore promoted to the rank of Sergeant. On this day, the 15th of October, 2019, by order of the Secretary of the Army, signed, General James C. McConville, Chief of Staff, United States Army.
Come on, First Sergeant, let's go. Whoa. Okay. As I go through, there's a lot of great things I get an opportunity to do. Right there, that was one of them. You know, when you can give back to the Army, that's the future of the Army. That is what is great, again, about our nation and about our Army and the faith that our officers have to us. Because in the reg, it says the Chief of Staff of the Army is the only one that can promote without time in service, time and grade waiver. And it was just this easy. I walk up to the Chief last night as we were getting ready to go to the reception and said, sir, I want to promote the soldier to specialist, and I want to promote the winner of the soldier to sergeant. He said, too easy. That was it. There wasn't a lot of questions. That's exactly what he said. That's what I keep talking about. This is my Army, and that's what I love about it, is that we got the confidence and the faith of our officers just to go, okay, Sergeant Major, you just take care of it. Let me know what I got to sign. So that is awesome, and I'm really glad we got to do that. So I do have to give one more coin, so I just figured out. Stand up. Where's your NCO? Where's he at?
Staff Sergeant Emery.
Oh, there you are. You're hiding in the back. So I just figured out that the winner here is also the sponsor for one of our NCOs. I mean, think about this is my squad. That's one of my squad leaders, that he came up to compete in the Best Warrior competition, but he had a great example. This is his platoon sergeant. And I just figured, these are the guys that tried to drown me in Kuwait, by the way. But the scuba team, hey, Sergeant Major, just swim about 400 meters that way. Oh, okay. But the great thing about it is right here is, you know, a leader who's setting the example. So he wins his award, and he has a Best Warrior competitor right there. I just want to say I'm really proud of you and everything that you've done, and I can give you a coin too, I guess. Well, not that one. Well, hopefully there's one in the pocket that looks like. There you go.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you for what you do.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to the panel. They've got some great talking points. We're going to make sure we leave it open for discussion. And I sat on the panel last year, so no holds barred. When they get up here, you're going to throw it at them, because you threw the kitchen sink at me when I was up there last year. So I'm laying it down now. So if you hadn't had a good question on those cards, you just got it. I mean, I want you to come at them hard, because they got all the answers. If they don't, then we'll ask SMA Daily. So without further... And there it is. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to John. Thank you for being here today, and it's been a great AUSA so far, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, SMA, and to all of you, welcome to the Sergeant Major of the Army's Professional Development Forum. This is how it's going to go today. Some of you on your seats, you probably saw a card before you sat down. Please pass them around to anyone that wants to ask a question. If you got a question at any time, write it down on the card. Sergeant Ortega on my right, Sergeant Serrano on my left. If you raise your hand, they'll come around and grab your card. We'll get it up to the podium. And if we follow that fashion, we'll be able to answer more questions, get better answers as we go along. This is an exciting time for our Army. There's a lot of really important things that are going on. If you were here yesterday when the Sergeant Major of the Army talked about his initiatives, he talked about this is my squad and the importance of that effort, taking ownership for our soldiers. He also talked a little bit about the ACFT, another important initiative for our Army. Many of you are wearing a new historic uniform, and he talked about the Expert Soldier Badge. If you think about it, all those things belong to the NCO Corps. General McConville said on 2 May in his confirmation, he said, winning requires unit cohesion, a cohesion built on a foundation of trained, disciplined, and fit soldiers who treat each other with dignity and respect. Those are all NCO Corps functions. So I challenge you this morning as we bring the panel up, and they talk a little bit about what's going on in their unit. You fill out the card, ask difficult and challenging questions that'll make you a better leader in your organization. It's important to our Army. The gentlemen on my left, on your right, represent the senior non-commissioned officers of our Army. I'm going to introduce them one at a time. They'll come up on the panel, and then we'll begin talking a little bit about what's going on in their organization. As soon as we finish that, we'll open it up to questions. First, I'd like to introduce Command Sergeant Major Tim Gooden, U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command. Command Sergeant Major Kurt Cornelison, U.S. Army Forces Command. Command Sergeant Major Mike Crosby from U.S. Army Futures Command. Command Sergeant Major Roger Masker from United States Army Material Command. Command Sergeant Major Ted Copeland of the United States Army Reserve. And Command Sergeant Major John Raines of the United States Army National Guard. Again, as we move along, you should be looking at your card, filling it out. When one of the speakers talks about a question or talks about what's going on in their unit, and you've got a question, fill it out. We'll get it up here so we're ready to answer questions as soon as we begin. I'll start with Command Sergeant Major Tim Gooden.
Okay, Mr. Sparks, John, thanks very much. Appreciate it. As the SMA said and as Mr. Sparks said, please give us some tough questions. I guess they've all decided to defer those down to my end of the table anyway, so we'll see. But so ask the tough questions. But here's the other side of SMA, if I may. Make sure that you understand that you're probably going to get some tough answers back. Okay. Sometimes there's not going to be anything that we're going to sugarcoat up here either. We're going to tell you what the ground truth is to some of those things. So I'm Tim Gooden, Sergeant Major TRADOC. There's a lot of things going on in our Army. If TRADOC is ever finding itself standing still, then we're probably doing something wrong. So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces in TRADOC every single day. And there's probably millions of questions that every single one of you have for our headquarters. I'm just going to stick with a couple of them, and hopefully it spurs some questions and maybe on some other topics also. The first one is no stranger to anybody, and it's the elephant in the room wherever I go, and it's the ACFT. A couple of things that I want you to know about the ACFT is that it's obviously, you know, FY20 is the year that everybody is required to do 2 not-for-record ACFTs, basically diagnostics. A couple points on that. It's really important. And I know that equipment is an issue, and a lot of this hinges the ability to test hinges on equipment. I get it, and we can talk about that a little bit also, but that's not the main focus. The thing I want to present to you is that as soon as you get the equipment, if you don't already have it, what we really need you to do is we really need you to take that ACFT as soon as possible so that we can start collecting that data. The data is really what's important this FY. We really need to get, because right now we have the data that's been collected on the 63 battalions that did the pilot test. It's not enough to get a good sample of the entire Army. There's a lot of things that are still hinging on this data. We have over 60 Army policies, manuals, and documents that need to be updated due to the ACFT. Anything from administrative to promotions and all that. So it's very important. And the sooner that we can get a good example, a good slice of the data from the entire Army, the better prepared we're going to be. So don't delay on that first ACFT. The other thing with don't delay on the first ACFT is if you haven't taken it yet, if your units haven't taken it, you're going to be surprised that once they do take it, how motivated they are, how mentally prepared they are, how excited they are, and how fit and eager they're going to want to be. I did every month on Fort Eustis, I do a Sergeant Major PT event, and the one that we did last month was I let the NCOs, the Sergeant Majors that are in charge, would come up with whatever they want, but we did a circuit drill. And the circuit drill was ACFT kind of focused, had a lot of that kind of stuff in it. It was good. And the Sergeant Major that was running it, he told me, he's like, you know where I found the idea for this exact circuit? And I said, no, where? He's like, back in 2010, PRT, a GTA was printed that was a PRT-like circuit, and it showed exactly the ACFT things that we need to do. So we were already doing this stuff back then. When PRT was introduced in 2009, 2010, it was not received well by the Army. If we would have been on our toes with PRT, we would probably be a lot better set right now in the Army-wide for doing the PRT. So I would just tell you and encourage you to get those ACFTs completed as soon as possible. Get the data inputted, and you're gonna see that your soldiers are eager and excited to do it. For the soldiers that are sitting here, the soldiers of the year that competed, I sat on the soldier board, and that was the one question that I asked each of them was about the ACFT. And you guys know the deal. When you're sitting on a board, you're not too excited to answer questions usually. But whenever I asked any of them about the ACFT question, their eyes kind of lit up a little bit, and they responded to it with some eagerness because they knew about it, they were excited about it, it was something that they liked, plus they just took the darn thing, and so they know about it. That's what the rest of our Army needs to realize is good about the ACFT. Okay, so that's the piece that's important on the ACFT. Next thing is going to be ESB. The ESB is I'll say it's in full effect. It's not really in full effect right now. We're just getting ready to move out with this thing. As a matter of fact, at today's Eisenhower luncheon, the SMA is going to award 11 of them, 11 of the ESB awardees that were involved in the 2017 pilot at JBLM. As the pilot, we had determined back then that if any of them actually met the standard and qualified for it, that we would find a way to present them the awards, and that's what the SMA is going to do today at today's luncheon. 7th ID is currently, I don't know if they're done or what, but 7th ID is running in ESB right now, and we're going to get some lessons learned and some ideas off of them as they complete this. I know that there's other division sergeant majors. I talked to the 82nd CSM, and I know that they plan on sending senior NCOs out and about to understand and watch EIB testing and to get some of the lessons learned on ESB. So here's the one thing I want you to understand about ESB. ESB it's a good thing for our Army because it focuses on the warrior tasks and battle drills. It focuses on those skill level 1 individual tasks that all of us as sergeants, as NCOs are required to do with individual crew and small team training. So it really hones in on that. But the other thing is that it awards excellence by identifying experts. And that's what we have to make sure that we understand, that not everybody is going to get the ESB. Everybody should train and everybody should test at the ESB, but not everybody is going to get it because it comes down to identifying that excellence and or identifying those experts that you have and awarding them with excellence. So that's what it comes down to. Open to any questions that you might have on ESB. And the last thing that I want to bring up is that we are working right now, initial stages with MNRA within the Army staff. We are going to come up with courses of action ideas to present a test. A cognitive behavioral type of test. The test has already been done. We've been implementing it for years. Recruiters have been. We're just going to implement it at a different stage in a soldier's career. And the more left we can get to the bang, I think we're going to be better, because we always want to be able to find out ahead of time who's going to have the skills, attributes, and knowledge to be recruiters, drill sergeants, platform instructors, subject matter experts, whatever you want to call it. And so we want to establish this test that's taken early in a soldier's career, preferably before BLC, as they are advancing into that NCO preparatory stage, so that we can tell them through the test, and then that leadership can look at this test and say, hey, based off of this, here's how we're going to kind of guide your path. And it goes right into the chief's people piece on talent management. And we want to be able to tell our entire enlisted force at a fairly early stage in their career on how we think that we can best utilize their talent for the needs of the Army. And so I'll take any questions on that or anything else that you have on TRADOC or anything else that these guys push down to the right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Next is Sergeant Major Cornelison from Forces Command.
Yeah, thank you, John, and I will keep it to 5 to 7 minutes like you told us to.
Was I not 7 minutes?
No, you were about 7.5.
Did I bust?
No, you're good. So it's great to see everybody today. So Kurt Cornelison, Forces Command, Sergeant Major. I've been in position for about 90 days now. And as you know, you should be tracking Forces Command is responsible for the tactical readiness of the Army. And with the amount of chunk of the Army that we have in Forces Command, we're really responsible for the entire tactical readiness of the U.S. Army. And one of the great things about Forces Command being the Sergeant Major is that we have control of our 2 CTCs, JRTC and NTC. And of course, that's one of the first trips I made out there because I think that's where you can get a real good feel for the pulse of the tactical readiness of the Army. Now, I've been outside Forces Command for about 1.5 years when I was over in U.S. Army Central serving as an Army Service Component Command Sergeant Major. Before that, I was the 1st Infantry Division Sergeant Major, so I want to kind of get out there and see how our divisions are doing. And we've made some gains in our administrative readiness. Seen our non-deployable rates come down over the last 3 years at a pretty good clip. But, you know, when I went out there and started talking to the OCs, and, of course, as the Force Com Sergeant Major, I'm looking at small unit discipline and how well and proficient our small units fight. And some of the AAR comments I was getting from the OCs were basically the same that you've seen before, that I've seen back when I was a platoon sergeant. You know, unit lacking in areas of security at the halt and defense, construction of fighting positions, inability to perform range cards as standards, no load plans, PCCs, PCIs, ineffective battle drills. And so what I'm like, okay, really hasn't changed too much in what we're doing at the small unit level since I've been away. And really, you know, now that I'm up here, I'm looking, this has been going on for a long time. And I kind of asked myself if we become numb to it. I mean, because you could really just change the header on these AERs and it's the same thing. And our units are certainly, you know, our commanders and sergeant majors and first sergeants, our small unit leaders are good folks. And you know how it gets this way. It's the tyranny of time. We put them in a position where they really feel with the available time they have to start with collective training over their individual training. So we owe them that, you know, as Forces Command to carve out more time for them. But I also think there's an issue with training management at the small unit level. Again, anecdotal, I'm not going to mention any names, but out at JRTC, a brigade out there, as soon as we get out there, like, hey, this brigade's doing pretty good. One of the main reasons is they haven't been deployed in a while, so they've been working at their stuff. They came in, they were able to operate at a higher level of training. And so I told the boss, I'm like, it goes to show you that really our brigade and battalion command teams, if you give them the time, they're going to make lethal units. I was out there talking to a battalion sergeant major, asking them, hey, what's something you could have maybe done better or concentrated more on? And he told me, he goes, well, I worked on, I'm not going to tell you what type of unit it was, but it was crew-centric. He goes, we worked on the crews, making them, you know, working their MOS-related skills as best we could. However, I wished I would have worked on maybe some warrior task and battle drills, some of those common tasks. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, if you look over there at that fighting position, one, it's unmanned. It's not dug to standard. That M250 cal on top of that vehicle, I don't have people that can operate that. And I said, well, what was your, you know, your training methodology? How did you get after that? He goes, well, I told the first sergeants to make sure they carved out time to do that individual, you know, training. And, but he goes, I realized that my first sergeant maybe didn't understand how that should have worked. And I'm like, you're exactly right. So I go back to my office at Forces Command. I've got a representation of the Army there as my ops NCO and driver, a sergeant first class, and a sergeant, both very good. Went through a selection process to get to where they were, and I was like, okay, Sergeant, I want you to tell me how you would train your team on skill level 1 task, and sergeants, tell me how you would, sergeant first class, tell me how you would support him doing that. Well, I got a bunch of, you know, kind of blink, 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 and they had to think through it. And then what I was like, okay, go do your homework and figure out how to do this and come back and brief me on it so we see where everything's at. And so I go to my computer and start looking at our doctrine to make sure I'm blued up on it. And well, they come back, and what I realize is our brothers and sisters in TRADOC have kept the doctrine updated. I mean, it's all out there in the Army Training Network. What we failed to do in Forces Command is train our subordinates, you know, our junior level sergeants on how to train that skill level 1 training. And I tell you, and it's been this way for a while, but I think we're at a juncture in our Army's history right now. I mean, you've got the Chief of Staff of the Army. If you haven't heard him talk, he says, trained, disciplined, fit, small units. If we have that, everything else falls into place. My commander, General Mike Garrett, his training guidance states in there, highly trained squads and platoons are the foundation of ready units. All right, then you've got the SMA himself right here saying, focus on the mid-grade development. Sergeant, staff sergeant, first class. This is my squad. So I think we're at that juncture. But what we have to do is arm our sergeants. You know, they have to know how to train when given that time. And then also in the 7-0 that's recently came out called training, all right, hip pocket training, concurrent training, all right, those are still, sergeant's time training are still doctrinal times and techniques to get after individual team, crew, and squad training in a time-constrained environment. And that's going to be, when I'm out at camp posts and stations talking to our senior NCOs out there, that's something I'm going to be interested in. I think we can make some great gains in our Army on. John.
Thanks very much, Sergeant Major. Next is Sergeant Major Mike Crosby from Army Futures Command.
Okay, good morning. How's everybody doing? All right, good. United States Army Futures Command is one of the newest ACOMs. I'm just going to give you some wave top ideas of what we do, and then we want to actually hear from you. So about 2 minutes, and I'll pass it to my good friend, Command Sergeant Major Roger Masker. So Army Futures Command stood up last year, August 24th, 2018, down in Austin, Texas. The headquarters consists of 500. So 400 civilians, 100 military, and of that 100 military, 22 non-commissioned officers. We got 3 sub-commands that fall underneath Army Futures Command. Combat Capabilities Development Command, as you might know, back in the day, it was called Research and Development Command. We have Futures and Concepts at Fort Eustis, Virginia. We have the Medical Research and Development Command that falls underneath us. We kind of have direct reporting for all of the testing facilities across the Army. Army Testing and Evaluation Command is a direct reporting unit for us. We also have the Army Reserves, the 75th Innovation Command. They're considered our tech scouts. We also have inside of the headquarters all 3 components of the Army: Army Reserves, Army National Guard. Our mission inside of Futures Command is a persistence, transformation of the Army modernization system to provide concepts, capabilities, and organizational structure to put in the warfighter's hands so we can deploy, win, and fight and redeploy. That is our sole mission. People is the #1 priority. Soldier touch points is another priority. Soldiers are part of the test, build, and design phase so they can give consistent feedback to those engineers, the PMs, and also the PEOs. All cross-functional teams are aligned with a core, just in case you didn't know. Long-range precision fires, future vertical lift, air missile defense, the network, soldier lethality, and also synthetic training environment. Soldier lethality, we're gonna nest that with the SMA's initiative of This Is My Squad. Soldier performance model is gonna be a call-out box where we're gonna ignite the squad to see how well they're gonna perform. Army Futures Command is a complement of the other Army commands. That's Training Doctrine Command, Forces Command, and Army Material Command. And we're spread it across all 3 components, and we're nested with the Joint Force. So looking forward to hear from you. Hard questions, we give you some great feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Next is Sergeant Major Roger Masker from United States Army Materials Command.
Hey, first of all, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I just want to talk about a few things that have happened over the last year so you understand how Army Material Command has changed. First, as you heard Sergeant Major Crosby talk about, RDCOM moved over to him to be CCDC. 1 March this year, MCOM became part of AMC. FINCOM became part of AMC on 1 October this year, and we've taken on AMLC, which is known as Army Medical Logistics Command. So what I just told you is AMC is now collectively in support of everybody. There is no more gaps or seams in my view or perception at every camp, post, and station. So there's 5 topics I'd like to talk about, but I know there is 5 to 7 minutes, but I'm going to talk. Number 1 thing I'm going to talk about is barracks. We own the barracks. We have to get in the barracks, but I would just tell you what we're finding right now is maybe we're not assessing the barracks properly. Our Q ratings are not accurate. You have to understand how money and resources and priorities go for us to palm, if you will, provide money for this. If our ratings are not accurate, what happens is we either undercut what's required or we go over and we spend money in the wrong places. So I ask the sergeant majors, non-commissioned officers, find out what the Q rating of your barracks is. And some of you probably don't even know what the Q rating is. The Q rating is truly an assessment of the whole infrastructure, really the sustainment rate, the restoration and modernization, what's required for a barracks. Get in there, appoint somebody that's well educated. We will train them to do the Q ratings. We, AMC, need your help because we can't go and look at every barracks. But there's no reason why that we find these. I would like to think they're surprises or anomalies, but I'm kind of finding they're not anomalies. When a barracks is rated as Q1, which is the highest, means we're going to spend very little money in them. We're going to spend very little sustainment dollars on them. But when you look at the barracks, it requires much more than sustainment dollars, okay? So I ask you as non-commissioned officers, we have to get after this. And by the way, our timeline is very, very short. So by December, we need to have the most accurate picture we can have. And don't let anybody tell you it's the wrong time of year to submit a Q rating. I'll just tell you right now, don't accept that answer. I about used the word, but I didn't. Okay? Our soldiers deserve barracks that are worthy to live in, and it's our job as leaders to ensure that we've at least identified the challenges and concerns of those barracks. Okay? That's our job, non-commissioned officers. Second part I'd like to talk about is housing. We went through our housing crisis, if you will. It was on Valentine's Day, 14 February this year. I'm just going to tell you, the crisis is not over. Don't take your eye off the ball. We own that too. Our partners are only part of this. We are the second part of this. It's a partnership. It's not a contract. It's not they have 51, we have 49. It's actually 50-50. Get in there. It's pretty alarming. If you've been to any town halls, what's kind of concerning to me is these town halls are happening at House for Housing town halls every quarter to installations. And you look at who's there, and it's their very senior leaders and the tenants. And there's a lot of people between there and there. Squad leaders, platoon sergeants, first sergeants, battalion and brigade sergeant majors. Hear what your soldiers are living in and the challenges they're having. Be part of the solution. It's very alarming, some of the stories I've heard, okay? And they deserve better. By the way, our partners have already, to this date, probably in the last 45 days, have committed another $500 million in investments. That's whether rebuilding a house, building new houses, tearing down houses, what have you. But it's just like the barracks. If we don't have the assessments right, we're liable to spend the money in the wrong places. So help our partners, help us. We've really changed some, and I'm going to use some terminology you're not going to understand, but MDMs, we've gone over all the, we've had a rash of MDMs. So basically a housing crisis happens, we swing left and we start repairing and replacing and moving people and doing all this stuff. But the MDMs are falling right now to really put the money back in the right buckets so we can have sustainment dollars to this. Because as you know, in this Army, it's more than just owning it, you've got to sustain it. Next part I'd like to talk about, and I think this will be the last talk because I'm actually timing myself. ACFT. Sergeant Major Gooden talked about it. It's coming. But what most people want to know is when are we getting our equipment? So I won't bore you with everything. The protest is over. We have done our rock drill. We're about to start delivery in January of this year. I want to tell you there's 35,658 sits getting delivered between January and April this year. What I can offer to you right now, the things we should be talking about is, where do you want it delivered? Who's going to account for it? Where are you going to store it at? Because it's all for nothing if we deliver it and then we can't find it 4 to 6 months later. So we are going to provide, AMC is going to provide material fielding teams at every single location. It's going to unpack it for you, it's going to inventory for you, and you're going to do accountability right there on the spot. And then it's up to the senior command where we do that at, but I would offer it's probably LRCs or SSAs because they have forklifts because that stuff gets a little heavy. Okay? But if we try to deliver to every orderly room, that's probably not the right answer, okay? So senior leaders, I ask you to think about where you want delivered, not when we show up and we try to figure it out and then you just stick it in the back of a LMTV or an MTV and now we don't know where it's at no more. So some other things I need to talk about. Hey, we're going to provide you at that time the ability to order replacement equipment. I guess my time is up. We're going to provide you the information you need to understand If something gets damaged, something gets lost, is how you order it. We're going to provide that to you. I would just offer to you, do not take that NSN and start ordering new sets. We cannot, well, I can't say we cannot afford. That is not the intention of ACFT, is to have every company level currently. It's battalion level sets. And last thing I'll just tell you about ACFT equipment, $78 million that we owe this United States that we account for. $78 million in equipment, okay? So that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. Next is Command Sergeant Major Ted Copeland from the United States Army Reserve.
Thank you, John. Good morning. How can the day get better, SMA? A room full of non-commissioned officers, retired non-commissioned officers, and our Army civilians. What a great day. So what's the Army Reserve doing? Boy, what aren't we doing? So in the last 2.5 years, we've transitioned really from a strategic reserve to an operational reserve, and all the issues that come with that, but we're working through them. So a few things I want to touch upon is, Sergeant Major Manser talked about the ACFT. We have 638 locations in the Army Reserve that the ACFT equipment's being delivered. 638. So all that accountability, who's that falling? The non-commissioned officer. So something to think about. So a few things we've done, what has the non-commissioned officers in the Army Reserve done to support the CG's intention on our change from strategic to operational? Quite a few, but one thing that we really have touched on to talk to people is we developed what we call a junior leader validation program. And I put senior sergeant majors on this task force. They developed an 18-hour POI to get back to train our young E5s and E6s, junior NCO leadership skill sets. Some of them are as simple as drill and ceremony. What is drill and ceremony, and how to do drill and ceremony, and how do you affect your soldiers' promotions? How are you involved with that? Just those basic leader skill sets at that E5, E6 level that some sergeants know, some don't. So if we're, as the award earlier today, the Sergeant Major Larry Strickland Award said, if you educate, train NCOs, you educate and train soldiers. So that's the pivot point. As a lot of my fellow CSMs up here talked about, squad is the key point. So if that squad leader and that sergeant team leader don't know what they should be doing, they're not going to get it by osmosis. So it's really train, educate, but more importantly, empower our non-commissioned officers. Empower our non-commissioned officers. If you really look across your formation, we're very risk adverse. Everybody's afraid of failure. If you're one of the more mature NCOs in this room, that's how we grew up. Failure is okay if it's safe, nobody's going to get hurt. Young NCOs and soldiers will learn better with failure, minor failure, and then you re-educate and you push them through. So that's one of the main things that we're really focused on. We've been rolling it out for about a year. Last 6 months it's picking up speed. It's been directed every E5, E6 will be trained. Obviously, our biggest commodity in the Army Reserve, just like the National Guard, is time. So that's been a real challenge. How do we fit it in? But the dividends will start showing themselves probably next year. Good thing yesterday at the NCO and the Soldier Award Luncheon, the Vice talked about non-commissioned officers being empowered, taking back their responsibility so officers can do what they're supposed to do. We come to forums, we all have YTBs, training, and we all talk about the issues, talk about the problems, but we admire them, and then we turn around and go out and we're busy, and whether it's well-intentioned or not, we do not put activity behind what we say. So I really challenge every non-commissioned officer in this room to look at yourself, look at your formation. And if you don't remember, because you're not mature enough, that we used to talk sphere of influence. And if you're young E5, you got a small sphere. E6 a little bigger. If you take care of your little piece, that sphere of influence, the Army will get better faster and quicker. And it gets easier for every level non-commissioned officer because the sergeants below them are taking care of their little piece of the pie. I'd be more than happy to talk about the ACFT, more to it if you want to ask those questions, because we have a very complex problem in the Army Reserve on just not getting it out, getting it in location, getting it stored, getting it accounted for. Can we take it at our Army Reserve Center? Most of our Army Reserve Centers don't even have grass anymore. It's a parking lot and a building. So many problems. So I'd be more than happy to expound on that if somebody'd like to ask. That's all I got, John.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. Next is Command Sergeant Major John Raines from the United States Army National Guard.
All right, hey, first I want to clear up, I'm not the Army Guard Sergeant Major. The Army Guard Sergeant Major is Sergeant Major John Sampa. He's a few doors down doing another panel with the boss right now. So I'm sitting in. I am the Mississippi National Guard Senior Enlisted Leader, and I'm going to talk a little bit about where the Guard is and where we stand on some of the priorities. So the 335,000 members of the Army National Guard have been busy over the last 15 plus years. This year was no exception. We currently have over 20,000 soldiers mobilized in a Title X status, 2,500 deployed to the southwest border, and over 24,000 have participated in theater security cooperation engagements around the globe, supporting COCOM commanders with our state partnership program. Our 54 states, territories, and the District of Columbia are committed and involved in both our federal and state mission every day. With this commitment, we realize we must continue to assess our wartime capabilities and be able to really see ourselves objectively. I equate the challenge to Bama football, which I think is the reason I'm up here, because the SMA is from Bama, so they figured if I got lost, I could just tell a Bama football story. So roll tide. So our soldiers are used to winning. It's hard to keep them focused when they are cleaning house on teams they clearly have an overmatch in all phases. They get complacent. This is our challenge, keeping them focused on the opposition down the road that is just as well equipped and just as talented. In this endeavor, our priorities are the same as everyone here. People are number one: readiness, modernization, and reform. What is your National Guard doing to be able to assess, track, and participate in these priorities? Several things. For one, we position ourselves all over the enterprise to include in every office and command represented on the panel today. This allows us to have someone that understands our unique challenges, but also understands our unique strengths at the table. But even more importantly, with 335,000 guardsmen working in an infinite number of civilian career fields around the world, we can find the right citizen soldier with the right experience level, education level, and motivation to enhance just about any team. For example, in the priorities of modernization and reform, we have provided Futures Command several guardsmen that work across the 6 modernization priorities embedded on the 8 cross-functional teams, helping drive innovation. Another large undertaking we are involved with is the cornerstone of the Army's new 21st Century Talent Management System, IPSA. The Army National Guard is live right now in a handful of states, and in a few months we will be live in the entire Guard nation. We hope we can provide the enterprise with invaluable information, updates, and fixes before rolling it out Army-wide. I challenge everyone here over the next 6 months to a year to go see your Army National Guard counterparts, the state you're located in, and take a look and take some notes on the things they would have done differently if they had a chance to do it over again. The other large modernization effort we are undertaking, which is being discussed currently in another panel going on right now, is our plans to modernize our Army National Guard posture at the division level. This change will invest in talent management and development from the team level through the division level of assignment. This change will accomplish several things: posture Army National Guard divisions toward large-scale ground combat operations, better prepare Army National Guard divisions and lower echelon units for multi-domain operations, and establish a training association between Army National Guard divisions and doctrinal associated units and enablers. Lastly, it will establish divisions that are able to align with Army Corps and theater commands. All these efforts are great in theory, but we must be able to test them. Forces Command provides that opportunity with their commitment to program us for 4 CTC rotations a year. We're excited to test our new division posture through these training associations at our second-to-none training centers. We have already seen improvements just by increasing the frequency that our BCTs conduct a decisive action rotation. For example, our ABCTs, through trial and error, have settled at a 5-year readiness model. In the past, we were lucky to get 2 CTC turns in a career. This new 5-year term will give us more capable and experienced leaders across the divisional makeup. Coupled with a deployment every 5 to 8 years, we will remain operational relevant and ready for the next near-peer fight. We believe this places us in that sweet spot that balances work, rest cycles, which is a little different from our active duty counterparts because it involves military work, civilian job work, and then the all-important part of rest while making our families feel like the #1 priority. This is why during these transitions we continue to focus on our #1 priority, people. building cohesive teams and squads by creating a continual atmosphere that builds trust and recognizes families and employers. People are the single greatest asset we have. We allow the Army to bring capacity and capabilities on demand without having the burden of paying for them on a daily basis. However, this is also a great struggle and challenge. How do you stay relevant and ready with only 39 to 90 days a year? Given our geographic challenges of having soldiers living and working outside a reasonable commuting distance at home station, we must find ways to keep every soldier engaged outside their drill periods and annual training periods. Just updating things like childbirths, medical readiness, dental exams, etc. are hard enough when all your soldiers are in one place. But imagine having them spread across several states. In the Guard, there's no calling a formation, and a first sergeant or platoon sergeant running down a list of names that need to get things done. There's no daily formation to provide that accountability and motivation to get after fitness. Our in-person touch points are often only 2 to 4 days a month. The answer lies in our full-time manning that is the day-to-day conduit for our traditional drilling status forces. We have to influence this investment in this full-time force. Currently, we are funded at less than 64% of our full-time requirement. Compare this to 100% on the regular Army side, 88% on the U.S. Army Reserve side, 85% on the Air National Guard side. Year in, year out, this constraint continues to be our single largest challenge to developing effective, cohesive teams and reinforcing that winning attitude. The good news is that most haven't noticed this shortage because of the dedication shown daily by our full-time force. I believe this issue to be potentially the fastest return on investment we could make in terms of soldier readiness across our Army National Guard. With that said, the Army National Guard is committed to the Secretary of the Army and Chief of Staff of the Army's priorities and being the best team members possible. I look forward to any questions and turn it back over to Mr. Sparks.
Hey, thanks a lot, Sergeant Major. Great comments. You all are doing a wonderful job at filling out cards. We've got a lot of questions up here. Let me make a pledge to you. We're going to go down the line and we're going to answer questions as quickly as possible. If I miss your question, meet me up front. I'll take your information. I'll get the answer to your question and we'll get it back to you. So keep filling out the cards, keep sending them up, and we'll answer as many as we possibly can. The board member's going to, or the panel member's going to read the question and answer it as quickly as we can, and we're going to try to get as many of them done as we possibly can. The first question is to the SMA. SMA, the floor is yours.
Okay, I really appreciate this. I think a little quick AAR comment is next time we go Facebook Live, and then we could post the questions in there and then continue to answer them over maybe an hour or so. So whoever's taking the notes for me, make sure that we get that done. So we can post those on there. We can keep it open for a long time and get the questions out to you. So I know we are constrained for time. Next time, if we can't do that today, let's make sure we get that done. I got 2 quick questions. Can we wear colored patches in OCP and garrison and mandate subdued for field training and deployments? Okay, TJ, go ahead and stand up. Okay, this is your combat uniform. It's your combat uniform. And the regulation already says that you can wear full colored patches when authorized when you want to do it for a special event. I'm clearly in the Big Red 1 at some point in my life, and we did every once in a while for ceremonies wear full colored patches. Big Red 1 is actually an example in the AR 670-1 of the Big Red 1 doing that. But again, this is your combat uniform. If you want to see a full colored patch all the time, every day, wear this. We don't want to make that uniform this uniform. I want you to wear this uniform. If you want to see a full colored patch, wear this uniform every day. You'll see it every day. So sometimes what we're doing is we're trying to go, well, I want to be fancy in that one. Well, we got a uniform that's fancy. It's this one. Wear this one. It's not the answer. Yeah. Okay, there you go. That's one. You gotta love my. If you don't like my answer, at least you love my passion, right? Okay. Currently, female soldiers are authorized 30 to 60%, 30 to 36% body fat, depending on the age. 36 is a lot of body fat with the ACFT. Any thoughts on making height and weight standards more stringent? If you were at the 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on the bottom of the slide, maybe slide 3, what did it have on there? Anybody read the slide that actually was posted? 3%. Raise your hand. Who said it? Reduced by, you got a coin? Did he leave? Come on. Okay. So I'll give you a coin because he did. So my goal is to reduce. So you saw the report. The report was that the Army's obese by 14.7%. So it's not a male or a female thing, in my opinion. It's a Army thing. Is I want to reduce that obesity by 3%. It was on the slide. How we're going to do that, we're not there yet. If you saw also, it's ACFT, it's nutrition, it's also some sleep. We've been talking about this for a long time. We got to put some metrics to it. Does that mean we reduce the body fat? Maybe. Or maybe we just have better eating habits. But we clearly have to do something because 14.7, I think, obesity in the Army is probably too much. And I want to reduce that. And I'm not saying right now we're going to reduce the body fat standards. What I'm saying is that we need to reduce obesity in the Army. We need to reduce obesity in our nation. This is not just an Army problem, a Navy, Marines. It's a nation problem, and we all got to figure this out. So we're not there yet, so I'm not ready to lower the standards for male or female. I'm not looking at any one group. It's as a nation, we're looking to reduce obesity, okay?
Thank you, SMA. The first question for the panel goes to Command Sergeant Major Gooden from Training and Doctrine Command.
Okay, thanks. The question is, have you considered making the ACFT pass or fail in order to collect the data and relieve some of the anxiety of the new test? To answer, yes, we have considered just a pass-fail. However, that's not what we're going to do for a couple of reasons. Number one, pass and fail does not indicate a perception of doing your best. It just gets you to that certain level of mediocrity. You're okay with being a minimalist as long as I just pass it, I'm okay. We're about achieving that band of excellence. And ACFT, if you haven't taken it, you'll know once you take it. It's about competition. This is fun. It's about taking it and getting after it and doing better than you did the time before. So no, we're not going to do that. The other piece of that is that sometimes with pass-fail, if it gives you those two choices, that means that those two choices, both of them are acceptable, and failure is not acceptable. So we're not going to do it. Thanks.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major Cornelison.
All right, the question I have, again, areas ACFT. What is the plan to test forward deployed soldiers on the ACFT? Well, so I will tell you that the ACFT equipment is coming in containerized. It is deployable. That was one of the, that was one of the desires we had when we bought the stuff. I can tell you, going way back when we first started having these discussions, that was, some of the senior NCOs, the discussion was how are, what level are we going to issue it out? How are we going to keep up an account for all that equipment? But I will tell you, right about that time, I was the CJ Flick Sergeant Major under Sergeant Major Ben Jones in Iraq. We had a brigade of the 101st underneath us. The 101st at that time, this is several years ago, and I don't know exactly how they paid for it, but they did, down to UIC level. They bought a gem in a box or a beaver fit, I don't know which one it was. And they had brought them all to Iraq. And I tell you what, they did, those things were signed for by the company commanders, put on the property book. I mean, that is how we, account for property. It works. And those things went with every company troop and battery that was in the 101st. I mean, they were up in Mosul and some tough fighting. And myself and the commander, we get off the helicopter to go up there and check those small advise and assist teams that were up there alone and unafraid. And the first thing you'd run into on the perimeter was a beaver fit or a gem in a box. And so they were TMRing that thing all over up through there, so it was transportable and exportable. I will tell you this, for soldiers that maybe are not at the divisional type level, I think the Army Service Component Command and whatever theater, I will tell you this, before I went to U.S. RCENT, didn't really know what an Army Service Component Command did, or I do now, of course, and I will tell you in Kuwait and Qatar, there is enough a battalion's level worth of ACFT equipment in both of those ASGs there, and I think that's kind of how we get after it. But that stuff is deployable. If Sergeant Major Mansker wants to weigh in on it, it can be carried anywhere in the world, and we fully expect it to be.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Next question goes to Sergeant Major Mike Crosby.
Okay, the question is, as the national defense strategy, other current strategies, and the fighting domain cyber change, what do you foresee as the biggest challenge for DOTMIL PF in a physically constrained environment? Based off the national defense strategy, we have a concept called the multi-domain operations. It would compete in 5 areas: land, sea, space, and cyber, and air. And with this multi-domain, there's 3 tenets to it. It's called calibrated force posture, also the multi-domain formation and convergence. We're in an industrial-based society with an information society that's moving pretty fast. Anytime we integrate something within the DOTMIL PF, it's going to be a collaborative effort between Training and Doctrine Command and also Forces Command, Army Material Command, to have a cohesive unit to actually integrate it. There's $8.5 billion across FY19 that's based against the 6 modernization priorities. In a physical strained environment, if there's a CR, we will have those 6 modernization priorities will still be enforced across the entire domain.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. Next, Sergeant Major Mansker.
Okay. Hey, thanks. Hey, I'm going to pile on just a little bit on the ACFT equipment Sergeant Major Cornelison just talked about. First of all, you can deploy it if that's your choice. You can containerize it, you can deploy it. But I would offer to you that's not what I would do. The equipment is already in theaters. It is in theaters, and commanders and sergeant majors and everybody else will make decisions when you take the ACFT. Because the more times you move it, first of all, it takes strategic lift from us, and there's another container you have to move around the battlefield. That's the first thing. Second thing is accountability is right behind it. And then you got to get it back home, because when you come back from a deployment, you're going to have to go right back into your testing cycle. And it's probably not going to arrive on time. But I just tell you, each of us have ever deployed, you know there's plenty of equipment there, but I want you to fast forward, because if you haven't been there recently, they've actually aggregated that equipment and made ACFT equipment sets already there. And if the case need be, and I'll talk to Sergeant Major of the Army about this, but if the case need be, we'll buy additional sets just to put there, probably so you don't deploy it, because we don't need to take up another rail car, another truck, another distribution point, because it's already stretched to that's my, and obviously Sergeant Major Cornelison, you'll have a review on that. So to my question, the question to me is, I don't think necessarily specifically to me, it's called merit-based promotions. Cursory review of the most recent senior NCO selection. I'm assuming you're talking the mass sergeant, because that's the only one we've done. Seems soldiers in the secondary zone selected at a higher rate than primary. First you have to understand, there was no guidance that says pick more in the secondary zone than the primary zone. But you also have to understand, if they're getting selected with the primary, their records are incredible, and they're doing incredible things. So if anybody's ever been selected in the secondary zone in your whole Army career, you knew you waited till the last to get promoted. That has changed, and we all probably agree some of those secondary people were probably better suited, better fitted, ready to go. Okay? So I'm hoping it's not somebody here is offended by this, somebody got promoted in the secondary zone. That's our Army. We should promote our best. We should select our best, and we should promote them first. And if we're not about that, then we're about everybody gets a trophy. And I just tell you, it's long overdue, and it's a great process we're running through. So that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major Copeland.
Question was, I mentioned about NCO's fear of failure. We need to empower them. What needs to be done to make a change? How does the NCOs take more empowerment to not fear failure? Good question. You know, our junior leader validation program was one of them. You know, as I told the team that developed it when we implemented it, was if those young NCOs walk out of there with nothing else, they felt like I own this and I can do this without being told. So that's the one thing we're doing. And some of the other things, you know, what we've tried to do and what I've tried to do is, you know, I've done, yeah, I don't like technology, but I've done senior NCO podcasts. You know, I've done a couple already talking about non-commissioned officers, where we came from. You know, talking about the Blue Book. You know, Baron von Steuben, because you'll be surprised, non-commissioned officers in here, how many mid and senior grade NCOs don't know who those people are and what the Blue Book really is. So I've done that. I've done what I call live streams. And I've done it by C2, so I'll take one of my 22 two-star commands. I'll go to like a brigade headquarters, have a couple hundred soldiers live, but go Facebook with the rest of the units that are drilling that day on that weekend. So I've had 3,000 to 4,000 soldiers on Facebook, and I will give them a basic spiel. and then I'll answer questions live and to get to a bigger audience. It seems to be successful. I haven't done it recently, but I'm going to start them back up. Seems that, you know, if you want to get the word out, and that's what this is going to take, it's a culture change, you have to get it down to where it belongs. So that's one of them. Valid and enforced training schedules that has sergeant time training back on it. That empowers NCOs, if you do the process right, if you're a first sergeant in here or soon will be, a month or 2 months out, you should already be being briefed by that NCO on what their class or, you know, topic is in the next month or the following month. So that gets back to empowering and holding NCOs accountable. You know, and this all goes right in the line with the SMA's new theme, this is in my squad. So I'm going to pull my 3 BLC academies, some of my ALC, SLC classes, and I'm curious what these young NCOs think they need, what they think will help them do what we're wanting them to do. So it'll be interesting what we get. And I'm not real, I said it once, I'm not really big on technology. I don't know if I want another app, because apps, I'll just tell you, apps don't work if nobody goes to them and uses them. So you can develop a lot of these things, but how do you get them to it and how do you get them to use it? That's a key. So those are some things that we're trying to do. I'd be more than happy to hear any other good suggestions, but it's all about that culture change in education and communication. That's all I got.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major Raines.
All right, hey, my question's on mentorship. I think that's something that the panel and the audience could talk about all day, but in specifics, it is who should mentor junior and mid-grade NCOs and when. So, you know, I think it's about touch points, and you hear touch points come. So in our formation, the Guard, we don't have the touch points, the daily touch points that everybody else has. So we have to take advantage of social media. We have to take advantage of the old smartphone here. We have to take advantage of any way we can establish those touch points. And that's where mentorship starts. It starts at touch points. So who should mentor? Your first line leaders. I mean, that's where mentorship starts. And everybody has a first line leader. But then as you progress through your career, you know, you get away, you establish that touch point, and then that person that was over you or that person that was your subordinate continues those touch points at different intervals. They're no longer daily. Now they might be monthly, might be at AUSA, you know. So I think the real answer to that is it's established at first line leader level often, and then it continues on through our careers.
Thank you very much, Sergeant Major. Before we start the next round, Sergeant Major Mansker is going to add one more point about the ACFT.
Hey, I missed something on the ACFT equipment, and most of you want to know the answer to this question, is when you're going to get your stuff. So with SMA's permission, I'm going to send the slide that shows when you're going to get it to his office, and they'll distribute it outward. So you'll know where you're at versus bombarding me and asking me when I'm getting it. So thanks.
Sergeant Major Gooden.
Okay, my next question is, in reference to the cognitive behavioral test, is there any projected timeline that we can look at to see when this is going to be in the field? So to answer your question, no, there isn't a timeline established yet, because this is quite honestly probably within the last month to 2 months that that this initiative has been going on. But what I can tell you is that this test, at least, okay, so from the perspective of USAREC, and I think Sergeant Major Gavia is in here, but from a perspective of USAREC, they've been thinking about this type of test for recruiters for a while. We wanted to tap into it and use it not only for recruiters, but for drill sergeants, for platform instructors, SMEs, OCTs, whatever you want to kind of derive out of that. We have this test should be able to give you those attributes that we think you're going to be successful, or the test assess those attributes that are needed for success in any of those jobs. So when do you implement this test? Well, first of all, the test has already been developed. It was developed in 2005-ish, implemented in 2009, I think, in all the MEP stations. It's called the TAPAS test. Some of you may have heard of it. We would basically use the same test, but we would format it just a little bit differently. We would give it a NCO-specific name and call it the NSAB, the NCO Selection Assessment Battery. And I just pulled that off the top of my head. Do you believe that? No, I'm kidding. We would call it the NSAB, and preferably, I do not, there's been some discussion about putting this into BLC or ALC. I want it earlier than ALC. I don't want it to happen at that point. I want it to happen before that. And BLC is not the time. I don't want to input it into BLC. I want it to happen before BLC. If some of you remember, we used to take a test called the TABE test, and we used to take it at the education centers. That's my proposal, is that we implement this test at all local stations at the education centers. And TRADOC now does own all of the counselors that are in the education centers. So we can formulate this to be given at those places and require it to be taken prior to enrollment in BLC. Not that it's going to have any effect on BLC or the outcomes of BLC, but just for the simple fact that it's done. It's kind of like the photo. You know, you're required to take a photo even though people don't take the photo. It almost should be like if a photo is a requirement, you don't take it, maybe you shouldn't get promoted. If the NSAB is a requirement and you don't take the NSAB, well, maybe you're not going to see Staff Sergeant where we need you to do these jobs such as recruiter, drill sergeant, and so forth. So that's kind of the thought process behind it, and I can expound on that after we're done if anybody needs. Thanks.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major Cornelison.
All right, my question is dealing with the YMAT stabilization. How do you think stabilizing soldiers either within FORSCOM or TRADOC will impact your organizations either positively or negatively? So it's kind of a dual question. I will speak from the position of the FORSCOM Sergeant Major. So I will tell you, I don't see too many things negative about it. I was having this discussion with the Sergeant Major of the Army Grinston. I was told him I was a staff sergeant for 5 years. I was in my duty position as a squad leader for 3 years. First year, kind of got that solid foundation. Second year, I was able to kind of perfect my craft. And then the third year, I was an infantryman, so weapons squad leaders, where your senior squad leaders go, I was able to attain that position. And really what you are is an assistant platoon sergeant at that level, so I was already getting developed for the next level. Of course, when I was coming up, the Army was, it was a different Army, wasn't deployed as much, and we were able to do that. And I think it is prudent and wise move to try to get back to that as reasonably as we can to phase into something like that. Now, I do see, looking at it surely from a FORSCOM perspective, but when I open it up a little bit and look at the TRADOC perspective, I realize that if Sergeant Major Gooden is keeping instructors over there longer, that definitely helps him out, and I'll let him speak to that. But it also kind of slows, those staff sergeants coming back to my organization, so there would have to be a little give and take.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major Crosby.
Okay, the question reads, where's the Human Performance Center of Excellence? I haven't heard of that one. That's a new one. I don't think there is a Center of Excellence for human performance. Unless in TRADOC have something that I don't know. Second question, is there a discussion to make human performance a CFT? Inside of the soldier lethality, we got the soldier performance model. It's not called the human performance. We're not looking to make a CFT, a cross-functional team, for soldier performance model. What we're trying to do is integrate how do we what metrics do we place on the squad to make it more lethal when it comes to performance? And we're doing some work up at Redmond, Washington with a group of scientists and engineers to give that feedback. And we're gonna nest that feedback with the SMA's initiative, This Is My Squad.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. As you can all probably tell, we're just about out of time. This is how we're gonna proceed. The SMA is gonna give closing comments, and immediately after that, the panel members are gonna stay up here in the front. So if you have a question that you want an answer right now to, please come forward and we'll get the answer for you. If you can wait on me to research the question and get it back to you, come up front, I'll grab your card, I'll write your email address down, I'll get an answer from one of the panel members of the SMA, and we'll get the question back to you. So thank you very much for submitting so many questions. Thank you for your participation. Sergeant Major of the Army Grinston.
Let me give the panel members a round of applause. They've done a phenomenal job, and they really helped me as a transition. And I really take a lot of their feedback, and they're friends, they're good NCOs, and they've been able to help drive a lot of the things that we're going to go forward with the Army. So I really appreciate your candor and your feedback. And then my goal next year is just to, and along with the AUSA, we're going to make this bigger. I mean, we've already got some standing room. I just want to globally reach as we reach out and we get these cards right. and we can really open this up to a really good professional forum. And we're there. We're just going to make it bigger, and we're going to make it better. So that's one thing I just want to promise you as we go forward, because this is well done, and it's well done from the panel members, and I really wanted to say thank you to y'all. But I did want to look at this. This is a really good question, and I want to close with, what can I do as a PFC to reduce suicide in the Army? Isn't that a great, I mean, you know, let's go with what I've been talking about. This is my squad, and take that, and let's drill down on what I really mean, because I haven't said a lot of essence on that, is what is great about a great squad? You know, what do you do as a squad? You know, as a platoon sergeant, what were the things that got you here? You did good physical fitness, right? Yeah, I know. You know, I was out there. Like I said, they really did try to drown me in the Persian Gulf. But that's you know, it's not, you're thinking specifically about one point. So since I've been in the Army, we've had all these points. Let's go, I mean, I've been in the Army a long time. It's like 31 years now. So, you know, back when I grew up, now I'll even go, let's go back when I grew up. What was the big issue? It was a lot about race. So, and then you fast forward, and then it was about something else. Then it was about something else. That's what I mean. I don't want to play whack-a-mole on the topic. What I want is in great, strong, cohesive teams that wake up and you take your unit and you do a good physical training. And then after you do that good physical training, where do you go next? You go with each other to the chow hall. Or do you send a text to them, or you say, hey, we're going to meet here and we're going to have breakfast together and we're going to just talk. We're not going to talk about suicide. We're not going to talk about race. We're going to talk about sexual assault. We're just going to have a conversation about what we're going to do in this great squad. And then we're going to go out and we're going to do some good training that's well prepared, well thought after, based in doctrine, where I go out and I execute it and I'm ready. I don't sit there and go, what are you waiting for? I'm waiting for the man. What are you going to do? I don't know. Because you know what you're doing. So you start off, it's well-trained physical fitness. We go have some lunch or breakfast, and then we do a good training event. It's well-resourced. I got the time to do it, and then I execute that. And then maybe I have an MRE, because we're still out at the Smart T or the EST or out in the field. I'm just with my squad. But we're sitting there together, and then we go back to some training. And at the end of the day, I talk about, hey, what are you doing tonight? That's actually how we get after all those things. It's not I sent you a text and, hey, go have some lunch together, and you never actually say, how are you doing? I know how you're doing. I was with you all day. We had breakfast. We interacted. And we didn't just interact with a text and social media. We actually talked to each other. And then we trained really hard. And then if something went wrong, I would notice it. I would go, hey, you're not yourself today, because yesterday we were having breakfast. You just didn't seem the same. That's actually how you do it. Even as a PFC, you can say, I'm going to spend time with that person. Hey, we're finished at the end of the day. It was great. And you do what all good PFCs do, right? You go back to you go where? Specialist now? Where would you go after the end of the day? You got a little time on your hands, you're going to go. You go home. Where do you really go? You're a pretty big guy. You go to the gym, right? Because traffic's so bad in D.C., you can't get home till midnight anyway. They're all laughing. Everybody's laughing who lives here, right? But you go to the gym. So you go back to the gym, you have another workout, but you notice something's going on. It's like, you don't know what it is, but you know something about it. And you ask that simple question of, are you okay? And they go, oh, well, I'm kind of dealing with something. And you don't send them to somebody else. What do you do at that point? You go, come on, let's go together. You're right. We're going to go. I'm not going to send you to the behavioral health. I'm going to take you with me, because this is my squad, and I don't want anything to happen to you, because I noticed something wrong, and I'm going to physically take you where you need to go. Not send you, oh, I think, no, let's go. We're going to go together. That's actually how we do it because we care about each other. You know, so many times I see, hey, well, you got a pay problem. Well, I guess go up and talk to this one. Has anybody seen somebody do that? You know, you see a soldier in there and it's a young soldier. He's talking to the, you know, staff sergeant first class, put on this one you're talking about. And he's like, I got a pay problem. He's like, okay, soldier, get out. I know the 42s say, no, Sergeant Major, we would never send no soldier away. Sergeant Major, you were laughing at that. That was funny. So, but that's what I mean is when we have time and we spend time with each other, I think that's how that goes. And it's not one thing, because next year it may be the next thing. If we build cohesive teams where winning matters and we train together, we fight together, we'll notice something's wrong, and we'll make sure that we take care of each other no matter what the situation is, even in combat. When people are shooting at you, you're going to be there for them no matter what. That's what makes our Army so great. We just got to do more of it. That's what I'm talking about. So it's not about one entity. It's at how we build a cohesive team that does all those things together. And if something comes off, we take them, we get that fixed. We don't chastise them. We don't ridicule them. We don't think badly of them. It's just a teammate that needs some help with whatever that is. We fix it, and we move on. So that's a little bit of a long answer to your question, but I thought it was a phenomenal question. And it's tied to this is how we act in my unit, and we take care of each other that way. So I really appreciate everybody coming out to this forum. I'll turn it back over to close this out, but I really enjoyed it, and thank you for coming and attending this forum today. Thank you. Cool.
Thank you, SMA. And again, if you have questions for the panel, please come forward. If you submitted a card, we didn't answer it, please come down and give me your contact information. Thank you all for attending. Thank you to our former SMAs. Thank you to the Sergeant Major of the Army and the panel. This concludes the session.